1 second, a little coffee first. Okay, so for today's video, we're going to be talking about what I've learned so far while living here in Germany. It's not comprehensive, and for anybody from Germany, I definitely don't mean any offense, but I'm just going to give my perspective as a Mainer. You can see here, love Maine. This is a mug I got for Juliana. As a Mainer living here in Germany, what I've come to realize and what I understand so far. So, first off, I've learned some of the language I was studying before, but for some of you out there, maybe you're interested in learning some quick German so that you can say a few things as well. So I thought I would just start off with a couple basics. We'll start off with hello, which is hallo in German, H-A-L-L-O. Good day. Maybe after you've woken up and said hello to somebody, you want to say good day. Guten Tag. You can exchange that, of course, with morning, afternoon, night, just like in the US. If you wanted to say morning, Morgen, afternoon, Abend, or night, Nacht. Pretty similar sounding words, so not that hard to remember. And then last, maybe you're trying to ask someone, how are they? In German, you say, wie geht's? Or wie geht's dir? And that literally translates to how gets, or how do you do, essentially. Oh, and two more quick ones, actually. Du bist and ich bin. Du bist is you are, and ich bin is I am. So when you're responding to wie geht's dir, you would respond with ich bin vor, I'm happy, or something along these lines. Okay, so now that you know a little of the language, feel free to write some comments in German if you're from the US, or maybe your German is much better than mine, so you can correct me. Next, I wanted to move on to the language as a whole, which is that in Germany, almost everywhere, High German is spoken. Of course, many Germans learn other languages as well because of their close connections with other European countries. And then in school they also learn English because English has become pretty much a universal trade language. And so when Germany needs to trade with Spain, they might use a universal language of English to speak and interact with each other. So many Germans can speak wonderful English, and perhaps better than I can. However, because language is so important to some people, I wanted to mention that many still hold on to their own dialect in the country here, and I'm sure there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of different dialects throughout Germany. In this particular region where Juliana is from, Worms, and specifically this neighborhood, Hochheim, they speak Hochheimer or Hochem. Hochem is the local way to say Hochheim, and Hochheimer, from my understanding, seems to have some French influence in the language. Where we are in Germany is somewhat close to French borders, and in the past, French, with Napoleon, and even before then, French often came this way and Germans often went that way, usually for war, not the best thing. However, because of this constant moving of boundaries, people often exchanged language and created mixed languages. So this area in particular definitely has some French influences, but throughout Germany you can find all kinds of different influences, mostly based on their regions. geographically, like I said, here we're close to France, but also with previous conflicts and things like this, and also it serves as a point of pride for locals. So if you're from Hochheim, then and you can speak Hochheimer, then it gives you a sense of pride. You've been from here forever, and the local slang. So I think in that regard, it's somewhat similar to the U.S., where we have kind of different dialects throughout the South and Midwest and East Coast versus West Coast. So there's a lot of similarities in that. Next, I guess I should talk about geography and the regions that I mentioned. What I understand so far of Germany is that it's kind of divided geographically into 3 different portions. You have the north, and in the north, of course, you're close to the sea, and so a lot of the trading ports are located up in the north, and up there it's a little bit colder. Mostly everything's based around trade and things like this, and of course, because of the trade, they have influences from all around the world in that portion of Germany. And then you have the more central section, and the central section I would include this area of Worms and Hochheim. And in this region, it's very flat everywhere. It's some of the most fertile lands and wonderful for farming, and to me, I would definitely relate it to the Midwest in the US. It's kind of the heartland, even though I wouldn't say they have quite the same mentality as the heartland in the US. And here, lots of things are grown. They have very fertile soil, very flat land. It makes it very easy for farming. So then, aside from the central portion with all the farming and all this, you have the southern region, and the southern region is where you start to get into the more mountainous parts of Germany. Of course, higher up in the mountains, it's much colder, but the central portion of Germany and even most of the south, I could say, is a much more moderate climate and much more like, I guess, kind of the southern portion of the US. When you get up into the mountains, it can become very cold, and also because of the mountains, it remained a little more isolated from Germany as a whole. Of course, Germany is unified now. However, from my understanding of Germany, if you go way back in time, hundreds and hundreds of years, Germany was just several tribes, and Germanic tribes often fended for themselves, fought over land, fought amongst themselves. And of course, at one point you had the Roman Empire, which came up and took over parts of Germany, but you still always had several small tribes and regions that fought for themselves. And so up until Germany became Prussia, and Prussian ruler kind of unified all of Germany, everyone fought as their own small region. That included even Austria, parts of Poland, parts of France, or modern day France, all over the place. And Germany had very different borders. However, when things started to become unified, and I just learned this recently, due to the mountainous regions in Austria, or Österreich in German, these regions were able to kind of avoid the unification of Germany. Not necessarily that they wanted to avoid it, but because of the mountains, it's harder to trade, harder for armies to go and take over a land, and so it was just much easier in terms of the landscape and the ability for a ruling elite to go and conquer all of what is now Germany. So in the southern portions of Germany, you have places like Munich, and these are very prideful and more historic in a way. I guess maybe historic is the wrong word, but it seems that they cling on to their history a little more, maybe because it's a little more protected, because of the fact that they're more isolated from areas that are more openly moving around. So, speaking of cities, the next portion I'm going to talk about is kind of more of a question and answer. I don't know a ton about every city here in Germany, so some of this I'm going to have to look up information and just kind of give you guys a rundown of what I'm learning. So that'll be the next portion.